Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Build Widgets robotic competition. In this video, we're going to be looking at an overview for section 4, which deals with the competition format. This section really kind of holds the most amount of new information for the contest this year. Whether you're a returning team that's been competing with TCEA in years past, or a brand new team that's joining us for the first time, this is going to be new to everybody. Everyone's starting out with a blank page this year with this brand new format. So let's just jump in. I'm looking at the Build Widgets game manual. This is revision 1. Please make sure that throughout the season that you're looking for the latest version release of the game manual from the TCEA website. At this recording, because we're at the very beginning of the season, we're dealing with version 1 here, but it's very likely in the coming weeks, in the coming months, that we release updated versions, which will be version 2 or even possibly version 3 throughout the season, with clarifications and maybe some rule additions or changes as we need to do that. So please make sure that you've always have the most recent version of the game manual downloaded, and knowing those rules and understanding them is your responsibility. And part of this video is to help you understand that, but it's certainly not to replace the game manual. So while I want to help you understand what's there and kind of help guide you thinking through this new format, it's not meant to replace the game manual. So make sure that you have that downloaded, maybe even printed out in a binder, so that as you build your robot, as you program, as you think about strategy and the competition, that you know what's going to happen on competition day because you have access to the game manual. So let's scroll down to section 4 and let's jump in. There's a lot of new things to talk about this year. So for the competition, this will be the first time that you are going to be competing with an alliance partner and not competing against everybody else. So when you play matches, you're going to play 3 matches on competition day. Those are called qualification matches, and you're going to play those with an alliance partner. So when you get to the competition site on the day of the competition, once all the teams have an opportunity to check in and we make sure everybody's there, then we're going to assign you 3 different matches played with 3 different alliance partners, okay? And so you may play, and that's going to be random, so you might play with a team that you know, maybe from another team from your school, or it could be, and very likely could be, a team from another school that just happened to show up on competition day that you're going to play with. And those are called alliance partners. And like I said, they're going to be assigned randomly, and you'll know about them at the same time everybody else does. It'll be just a big announcement at the very beginning of the day of competition of who those teams are. There's going to be an app that you'll be able to access on your phone on competition day. And so as soon as those qualification matches are announced and as soon as those alliance partners are announced, there will be a QR code that you can scan with your phone and have immediate access to when you play, what table you play at, and who you play with. And getting to know those teams is going to be really important because everybody's going to bring their own specialty to the game. Some people might be really good at the autonomous section. Some people might be really good on the driver controlled period. Some people might be focusing on getting checkers. Some people might be focusing on getting the dice. And you'll see as you read through this game manual, there's a lot of things to do. It could be that one team is good at everything, but more than likely teams are going to be picked to different things to specialize in because you're going to be playing with a partner. You don't have to do it all. You can just count on your partner to help you get those points that we'll talk about here in just a minute. So alliance partnerships is a big deal, okay? And so communication with your alliance partner teams is going to be a big deal because we don't want you to just show up blind to a match not knowing what's going to happen. You guys can get together and coordinate your efforts and think, okay, maybe we're going to do this and you're going to do that, or you're going to do this and we'll do that, and we'll do this first and then you can do that second. Those kinds of things need to happen just as soon as you can, so that whenever you start, whether it's your first match or your second match or your third match of the day, you know what's going to happen, and you can increase the chances of earning as many points as possible. We call that at 4.1.2, that's called scouting, and it could be that you have somebody on your team that's not their specialty is not building a robot, their specialty is not programming a robot, their specialty may not even be driving the robot. Maybe they're good at making connections and networking with people, even new people that they haven't met before. Those scouts are going to go out and find maybe the scouts of other teams and talk about what's your strength, what's your weakness, what can you do, what can we do, and figure out a strategy. And it's very likely that the strategy will be different all the three matches based on who you're playing with. So that's going to be a big deal. So qualification matches, 4.2. Like I said, you're going to play 3 of those matches with 3 different partners, and that's going to be a random selection. So we won't know who you're going to play with until the morning, once everybody checks in on the day of contest day. Now, a match consists of 2 parts. The first 30 seconds of the match we're calling the autonomous period, and then the next 90 seconds is a driver-controlled period. So at the autonomous period, the first 30 seconds is your robot is going to have to be able to do some tasks and earn some points on its own. So you're going to have to pre-program it to do different things, and then you'll just push a button, let it do its thing, and then you're going to get points during the autonomous period. During the 90-second driver-controlled period, you're going to be able to pick up a controller, and that controller could be a phone, it could be a tablet, it could be a laptop, it could be like a third-party game controller with joysticks. That's going to be up to you, and you'll be able to drive your robot around and get points that way. Okay, so there's 2 different sections that you need to be aware of, and because of that, there's 2 different sets of rules. A set of rules for the 30-second autonomous and a set of rules for the 90-second driver controlled. Next is, before the match starts, you're going to have to check in with a referee to make sure that you're going to be in compliance. Now, compliance means that your robot must be able to fit inside of a 12-inch by 12-inch area on the table, and we'll just measure that with a ruler at the beginning of each match. Now, it's possible that your robot gets bigger than that throughout the match, but it has to start in that footprint. Remembering that there's no constraint on the height. So your robot can be as tall as possible, but it just has to be measured at the beginning of the match to make sure it fits in those constraints. You won't be able to fit the compliance and then make changes. You have to be able to get in compliance, and then after that, you just have to start the robot. So at the beginning of the match, you have to be in compliance of that 12-inch by 12-inch constraint. Okay, so let's talk about the 30-second autonomous period. That's the first 30 seconds of the match. To start that match, you have to start with some part of your robot touching the safe zone. Okay, so it has to be touching the white part of the safe zone inside the black perimeter. And it could be a tire, it could be a little extra piece that you have sticking, but some part that's touching your robot has to be touching the mat inside the safe zone, okay? And that's going to be the starting location. Now, once the game starts and your robot is out in the playing field, it has to be autonomous. That means you can't touch it, you can't move it around. It has to be moving on its own during the autonomous period. Now, 4.3.2 says you're not allowed to touch or pick up the robot once the clock begins and you've started your robot. 4.3.3 says if the robot is touching the safe zone, then your safety zone technician can change and restart the program, reconfigure the robot elements, and reposition and reorient the robot and restart it, okay? So if your robot starts the match, it leaves the safety zone, and then comes back in and touches the safety zone, you can change a program, you can point it a different direction, you can restart, you can reconfigure, but once it leaves the safety zone, it has to be autonomous, and it has to come back on its own if you want to be able to touch it again reprogram it, rechange it, repoint it, reconfigure it, whatever you want to do, okay? So that's the difference, is touching, the robot has to be touching the safe zone for you to be able to do anything with it with your hands. Otherwise, it's completely autonomous. Now, 4.3.4 deals with the game elements. So the game elements are going to be out on the field. It's possible that your robot, or hopeful that your robot, is going to bring those elements back to the safety zone, and then you can touch them, pick them up, reconfigure them, reposition them, whatever you want to do, as long as they remain inside the safety zone or return to the safety zone. So it's possible that you can get those elements, bring them back and hold them in your hands and immediately put them down and do something with them, or you could bring them back, hold them for a while, maybe wait for the driver controlled period and then do something different with them later, okay? Make sure you're following the rules though on when you can pick those up and when you cannot pick those up. You can also reload them back into the robot if you want to, and let the robot hold them. That's up to you as long as you're following the rules. Now, the robot has to be touching the safety zone for you to be able to do anything with it. The game elements simply have to be inside the safety zone. And that means not necessarily touching the white part inside the perimeter, but breaking the plane of one of those four sides of the perimeter. So if, for example, it's inside of your robot, it's not touching the mat, but it could be inside. So make sure you're reading and understanding those rules very carefully, because it gives you some opportunities there to do some different things. At the end of the 30-second period, the autonomous period, the referees are going to take score. Now, you need to make sure that your robot's completely stopped. It doesn't do anything after the 30-second buzzer goes off, because you can't get points after that. But at the end of the 30 seconds, the judges or the referees are going to score based on what you did during that 30 seconds. And then after that, the 90-second driver control period starts. We'll talk about scoring in just a minute. Let's keep rolling with the driver controlled period. So once the 30 seconds is over, all the game pieces stay still. You return the robot back to the safety zone if it's not already there. And because the game is paused, you can pick it up and move it back. You don't have to drive it back. But we're going to reset for the 90-second driver controlled period. And so the robot, again, you're going to relocate it. You're going to make sure it's touching the safe zone. We are not going to recheck for compliance of that part. So if you're bigger than 12 inches by 12 inches, hey, we're not going to make you change anything. You just have to bring it back, touch the safety zone, and wait for the 90-second driver control period to begin, okay? 4.3 says that Bluetooth is the only way that you can connect and control your robot remotely. There's another video that explains some of those things that you need to know about the connectivity and the control. And 4.4.4 says that you have up to 2 minutes after the 30-second autonomous and before we start the 90-second driver control period to get connected, because you're going to have to make some changes on your control module. You'll have to get your controller ready, make sure it's paired with Bluetooth and ready to go. And we understand that's going to take a little bit of time, but 2 minutes is all we can give you to do that. So that's something you're going to have to practice a lot before the day of competition, so that you can do that as quickly as possible, because we don't want to delay the contest day for technical reasons. We need you to have those worked out ahead of time, okay? Let's talk about 4.4.6 and 4.4.7. That just, again, I've talked a little bit about this. The robot, whenever you want to have some interactions with that, it has to be touching the safe zone, but the game elements simply have to be inside the safe zone. So make sure you're understanding the difference between touching and being inside. And then 4.4.8 basically just says at the end of the 90 seconds, when you're controlling your robot, you got to stop right when the alarm goes off, because you're not going to get any points for anything that happens after the buzzer after that, okay? So, and then once that happens, the match is over. So 30 seconds, and then 2 minutes to reset, and then 90 seconds, and then that match is over. And then let's talk about some scoring, okay? There's different areas where you can get points for the 30-second autonomous. So you're going to acquire elements. That means that you're getting the checkers off of the center dividing wall. And you need to do that quickly because the other alliance on the other side of the table is going to be trying to do the same thing. So acquiring the elements means that you're getting the checkers off of the wall onto your game mat, and you're going to earn 10 points for every checker that you get on your side of the playing field. Next thing is gathering elements. We want you to get as many game pieces as you can into your safe zone, and you're going to earn points that way during the autonomous period. And so for every piece or every game element that you can get located inside your safe zone by the end of the 30 seconds, you're getting 10 points apiece for those. And then the last thing that you can do to earn points in the 30-second autonomous is going to be claiming the money. So your robot needs to be, if you want these points, which is 50 points, that's a big deal, you need to be parked on the dollar bill. And on means you need to be stopped on it, which means you're touching the dollar bill somehow, or you're over it, or you're breaking the plane. So picture again like a vertical invisible plane on that dollar bill. You can be over it even if you're not touching it. That's considered parking on it, and that's going to get you 50 points. For the 90-second driver control period, again, you can continue getting any checkers that are left by the other team. You're not going to get points for those unless you put them into a widget and use them for those points. 4.6.2 is dealing with making of the widgets. So a widget is a combination of 2, 3, 4, or 5 elements that are touching each other but not touching a robot. Let me say that again. A widget is a group of 2, 3, 4, or 5 elements that are not touching your robot. Those get you lots of points. So the way, and they have to be touching one of the targets on the mat, but you're going to get 20 points for every element that consists of the widget, okay? And that touching the target means, so the target has a circle and the little plus. Let's just look. Hang on. Check it out. So there's a target. You see 2 circles and you see a vertical line and a horizontal line. A widget is touching that if it's touching one of these black lines or black circles, okay? So if a widget's touching that, if one part of a widget's touching it, then the whole widget's touching it, as long as those parts are connected and continuous, all right? All right, here we go. So touching the target means that one part of the widget is touching the black lines that define the target's shape. Okay, next, 4.6.3 is claiming money. It's the same thing that we did in the autonomous period, except less points because you're driving it around. But for 25 points, if your robot is parked on the fake dollar bill, you get points. And again, parked on means that it's stopped on, which means it's touching the dollar bill, or it's parked over that vertical plane. And because there's going to be 2 robots driving around in both the autonomous period and the driver control period, this is up for grabs for 2 different robots. So it's possible if both robots do it, you could get double points. So work with your alliance partner to see if you can both do that, because that's really good points available for you. And then last but not least, 4.6.4 deals with cleanup. You're going to receive a 5-point penalty for any game element that's inside the big circle that's not part of a widget. So if you have a widget and one little thing falls off of it and is loose, it's possible you could get a deduction for that. So you could just move it outside of the circle to avoid that penalty, but there is going to be a penalty associated with that. And then before we close the video, this is a copy of the score sheet that the referees are going to use. You better find this on the TCEA website, because you have access to the same thing that the referee is going to have access to, and you'll know exactly how things are going to get scored. So there's a section here for the 30-second autonomous. All they're going to do is count these checkers that are on the alliance side of the playing field and give you 10 points apiece for those. They're going to count the game elements inside the safety zone and give you 10 points apiece for those. Then they're going to check to see if your robot is stopped on the fake many, give you 50 points or not. And again, it's possible, since you have 2 robots in that area, you can get those points twice, okay? Same thing for driver controlled period. This is what the referees are going to be doing. At the end of the 90-second driver controlled period, they're going to look for widgets. For every 2-element widget that you have touching the target, you get 40 points. For every 3-element widget you have touching the target, you're going to get 60 points. For every 4 elements, you got it, right? 80 points and then 100 points. That's a lot of points that you can make, but they have to be touching each other, continuously touching each other, and they have to be touching a target for you to get those points. The unattached game elements inside the big circle, that's a 5-point deduction. And then the money at the end of the 90-second driver controlled period, we're going to count how many robots, 0, 1, or 2, and give you those 25 points based on those conditions. And then at the end of that match, you're going to, the referee's going to initial, then Team 1 alliance partner is going to initial, Team 2 alliance partner is going to initial, and that's the end of the match, all right? So that's how these matches are going to work. Obviously, what you're doing is you're trying to work with your partner during each match to earn as many points as you can. You're going to do that 3 times. And then as those add up, we're going to add up the points that you get from match 1, the points that you add up from match 2 and 3, and that's going to give you an overall team ranking score. And that's going to be really important for the finals competition that we'll talk about in a different video. So as we finish up, please make sure that you check the discussion board, or your sponsor checks the discussion board on the TCEA website. That's the best place to ask questions and get answers, check for clarification, and then be watching for new updated versions of the game manual to make sure that you have the latest information that you're watching. I can't wait for contest day. I can't wait to meet you guys and see what you've come up with. I'm certain that you're going to blow us away with what you come up with and how you find ways that we haven't even considered to play the game. And that's going to make it super awesome and a whole lot of fun. So we'll see you soon, and good luck.